We spend our entire lives building this perfect, stable routine, right?
Yeah.
Only to just wake up one morning wanting to take a sledgehammer to all of it.
Yeah, completely demolish it.
Exactly. I mean, we carefully curate our careers, our relationships, our daily habits. We stack them all up like bricks to build this fortress.
Right, to keep out the unknown.
Yeah, to keep out the unknown. And then out of nowhere, we get this almost violent urge to just tear the walls down so we can, feel the wind again.
It is the classic human tension, honestly. We crave predictability because, well, it reduces anxiety.
Sure.
We want to know that when we wake up, the world is going to look exactly the way we left it. But a life that is entirely predictable eventually just feels dead.
It does.
Yeah.
It feels totally stifling. And today we're looking at why the very things we rely on for safety might actually be the exact things suffocating us.
And our mission today is to explore that exact friction. We're investigating why we build these incredibly elaborate comfort zones and, more importantly, what happens when our fundamental need for authenticity finally outgrows them.
So welcome to today's deep dive. It is Thursday, April 23, 2026. And to explore this tension between wanting to be secure and needing to be free, we have a really phenomenal stack of source material today.
We really do.
All from Tarot by High DC. We're pairing a highly specific astrological forecast for today's date with this beautifully layered sci-fi StoryScope. It's called The Architecture of Leaving.
Which is such a great title.
It is. And together they create this fascinating lens on human behavior. So for anyone listening right now, I just ask you to keep an open mind about the structures in your own life. Hold your daily routines and your relationships a bit lightly as we explore this.
Yeah, because we are absolutely going to poke some holes in the idea of stability.
Oh, we are definitely doing that.
And the astrological forecast actually provides a surprisingly practical starting point for all this.
Okay, let's unpack this.
It acts as a sort of symptom checker almost, translating these celestial movements into really tangible psychological states that we can observe in ourselves.
Right, so let's look at the specific planetary alignment happening today that the source highlights. It's Venus conjunct Uranus.
Yes.
And when these two planetary energies meet, the forecast describes this sudden, just overwhelming influx of restlessness.
Oh, massive restlessness. Venus traditionally governs our values.
Right.
Our aesthetics, our relationships.
Right.
While Uranus is the energy of rebellion, it's electricity, it's sudden insight.
Does it when you mash them together?
Exactly. When they combine, it creates a highly volatile mixture. It's this deep urge to just break protocol.
The urge to disrupt everything. The text lists symptoms like unexpected financial developments, incredibly sudden romantic attractions, and a really sharp urge to just completely overhaul our immediate environment.
Yeah, the environment piece is huge.
I picture this energy as like waking up on a perfectly normal Tuesday and you walk into your completely tasteful, perfectly arranged beige living room.
The one you spent months curating.
Yes, the one you spent months on, and suddenly you just crave absolute aesthetic rebellion.
You want to destroy it.
You literally just want to smash a hole in the drywall, let the dust settle on your expensive rug, and paint the remaining studs neon pink.
Just irrational, sudden joy and destruction.
Exactly. And it's not just about the living room. It's a craving for change in your relationships, your career, just your entire trajectory.
But what's fascinating here is the underlying mechanism the source test reveals. Because this craving isn't just chaos for the sake of chaos.
Right, it has a purpose.
It is driven by a very specific, deep-seated need to break free from limiting situations. The forecast has this brilliant realization that just captures it perfectly.
I know exactly the quote you mean.
It says this energy brings the realization that the thing we've been calling stability has started to feel suspiciously like a beautiful cage.
A beautiful cage. That phrase is just, it perfectly captures the concept of golden handcuffs in a corporate career,
Oh, absolutely.
You're making a fantastic salary, you've got the corner office, the matching 401k, the stock options, and you are just absolutely soul-crushingly miserable.
But you stay.
You stay because the cage is gilded, the bars are made of gold, or, think about a relationship that looks completely flawless on paper.
Right, you never argue.
Never argue, you go to all the right dinner parties, everything is perfectly polite, but the actual messy vitality of the romance, that died like 5 years ago.
And because it looks so good from the outside, and because it provides material or social security, leaving just feels irrational.
Totally irrational.
We actively convince ourselves that being safe from criticism or financial worry is the exact same thing as being alive. We trade vitality for comfort.
We really do.
But this Venus-Uranus energy, it acts as a pressure valve. It builds up onto the surface of that beige living room until the desire for authenticity finally just overrides the desire to remain comfortable.
Okay, I have to push back on this framing just a little bit, though.
Sure.
Doesn't attributing this to a cosmic event sound like a massive excuse to just be completely reckless?
That is the danger, yeah.
I mean, a person could easily read this forecast and say, oh, sorry, I blew up my career and walked out on my 10-year marriage without a single conversation. But, Venus is conjunct Uranus today, so I had to escape my beautiful cage.
Right, like a get-out-of-jail-free card.
Exactly. It feels like handing someone a cosmic permission slip to detonate their life without taking any responsibility for the collateral damage.
And people constantly misinterpret disruptive energy in exactly that way. They use it to justify impulsive destruction, and they call it liberation.
Right.
But the source text actually explicitly anticipates that reaction. It warns against it. The directive is to, and I quote, stay flexible without becoming reckless.
Which is a very fine line to walk.
It is. The crucial distinction the text makes is about the quality of the change. True liberation here carries the quality of recognition rather than decision.
Recognition rather than decision, meaning you aren't waking up and deciding to manufacture a crisis out of thin air. You're waking up and finally recognizing a reality that has already shifted underneath the surface. Like the career hasn't fit for years, and you're just finally admitting it to yourself.
The forecast describes it as a revitalizing wave sweeping through areas that seem stuck.
A wave, not a wrecking ball.
Right. A wave isn't a wrecking ball swinging blindly into a building. It's a natural force that clears away debris. You don't necessarily have to blow up your life. You might simply recognize that a routine you've outgrown is no longer serving you, and you finally stop pretending it does.
So it's an internal awakening.
Yes, an internal awakening that might lead to external shifts, rather than an external explosion designed to force an internal feeling.
That makes a lot of sense. And to really visualize what living inside that beautiful cage actually looks like on a grand scale, we can turn to the allegorical sci-fi story in our stack.
The architecture of leaving.
Yes. It takes this abstract psychological state of trading vitality for comfort, and it builds an entire breathing world out of it.
It scales up the obsession with control until it encompasses an entire society.
And we are introduced to the city of Lethae. And the atmosphere of Lethae is just haunting.
It really is.
The story says it orbits a dim, patient star. And the geometry of the city is meticulously precise, almost to the point of being oppressive.
Everything is calculated.
Exactly. Every single tower curves to perfectly echo the angle of the next tower. The gardens, they don't just grow, they bloom on an exact, mathematically mandated schedule.
Which is terrifying, honestly.
It is. The text even notes that the light itself seems forced to obey the city's symmetry. It's a place where every human life unfolds according to a hyper-refined, completely predictable pattern.
And the citizens actually call this absolute stifling predictability. They call it stability.
Of course they do.
Lethae is the ultimate manifestation of the topiary garden. Every wild branch has been pruned away.
Yes.
But to maintain that terrifying level of perfection, a society requires a mechanism of constant enforcement. Which brings us to our protagonist, Iria.
Right, Iria. She holds what Lethae considers a highly prestigious position. She works at a facility called the Archive of Preferences.
And her role isn't merely to catalog what the citizens want.
No, it's way more invasive than that. She actively edits their desires. She monitors their human impulses before those impulses even fully form.
Just snipping them right at the bud.
Exactly. She smooths out the rough edges and quietly nudges their desires back into alignment with what the city has already proven to be safe and acceptable.
She is literally a state-sponsored curator of human impulse.
It's so creepy.
But think about how incredibly relevant that concept is to the way we interact with technology right now.
Oh, absolutely.
We might not have a literal physical archive of preferences in our cities, but we have algorithmic echo chambers that serve the exact same function.
Our social media feeds, the streaming platforms.
Targeted ads. They constantly feed us what is safe, what we already agree with, what fits our established behavioral pattern.
They systematically filter out our eccentricities. I mean, if Aria's job were an app on your phone, it would be a highly invasive, overzealous algorithm planted directly inside your brain.
Just quietly deleting your spontaneous thoughts.
Yes. Squashing your weird hobbies, ensuring you never do anything unpredictable or off-brand. It guarantees your life remains predictably beige.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, back to that astrological forecast, Irmaria's internal conflict becomes the focal point of this entire dynamic.
Because she's starting to doubt it.
Right. Her work is culturally considered honorable by the city. She's keeping the peace. But internally, the text notes she has begun to feel like she is committing theft.
Stealing people's actual selves, trading their raw, messy vitality for this artificial harmony.
Because when you constantly edit out the anomalies, the sudden urges to change careers, the unexpected romantic attractions, the bizarre desire to paint the living room neon pink.
You aren't just maintaining order, you're slowly suffocating the human spirit.
Exactly. Lethae is the beautiful cage brought to life. It holds on to its citizens simply because the pattern is familiar, but it steals their capacity for evolution in the process.
But that artificial harmony cannot last forever, right? The pressure valve has to release eventually.
Okay.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
The flickers.
Yes. Iria is sitting at her console in the archive, and she starts noticing what she calls a flicker in the system. Just these tiny, seemingly insignificant deviations from the established baseline preferences.
But then they start compounding rapidly.
Really rapidly. The Uranus-like energy is finally striking Lethae. The desire for independence is overriding the city's programming.
And the specific examples of these anomalies in the story, they map flawlessly onto the astrological symptoms we talked about earlier.
They do, like the citizen in Sector Glass. They suddenly change their aesthetic profile 3 times in a single hour.
The aesthetic rebellion.
Right. Or the merchant who abruptly abandons a decade-long, highly lucrative contract without filing any of the proper exit protocols.
The financial disruption.
Yep. And then 2 strangers meet on a transit bridge, and within minutes they completely rewrite their relational agreements.
The sudden attraction. It's all exploding across the city at once.
And the system's immediate programmed response is to treat this sudden burst of vitality as a pathogen. Iria's assistant drone, which is described as this little sphere of pale light, flags these human moments as critical errors.
He wants to fix them.
It offers to correct them, to restore the pattern, to make these citizens' choices safer and more predictable again. It basically acts as the city's immune system attacking a virus.
And Iria's hand literally hovers over the command interface.
She has the absolute power to delete these sudden changes.
She can hit a button and force everyone back into the beautiful cage.
But she pulls her hand back. She looks at the data and she tells the drone, "Let them run."
Let them run. Refusing to correct those deviations opens the door for what the story refers to as the wave.
And the wave arrives a week later.
It does. And the crucial detail here is how the source text describes the behavior of this wave. It slips through the city's defensive lattice, and the text emphasizes that it did not damage, it did not overwrite, it revealed.
Revealed. I love that word for this. It's like pulling a heavy tarp off a piece of furniture you forgot was even in the room.
And this directly addresses your earlier concern about recklessness and the sledgehammer.
Oh, right. My whole permission slip theory.
Exactly. The wave wasn't a destructive force sent to punish Lethae for being rigid. It was simply the external manifestation of an internal shift that had already occurred.
So the changes were already there, just hidden.
Right. Long-standing partnerships dissolved, yes. But they were partnerships that had been emotionally hollow for years.
Right, the golden handcuffs were already rusting.
And new partnerships formed just as quickly. Connections the text calls improbable and electric. People abandoned empty, status-driven pursuits for things they couldn't even define yet.
It wasn't about breaking the city. It was about exposing what was actually true underneath all those heavily edited preferences. The illusion of perfection was stripped away to reveal the messy, authentic reality of human desire.
When you stop artificially pruning a topiary garden, the branches are naturally going to grow wild.
It's just nature.
It might look messy and chaotic to the gardener who wants perfect spheres and cubes, but to the tree itself, it's just called growing.
Well, the people in charge of Lethae's topiary garden definitely do not see it that way.
No, they do not.
As these revelations sweep through the population, the administrative system goes completely haywire. Markets fluctuate wildly. The archive just overflows with unprocessable, contradictory data.
Complete system overload.
And Ivria's supervisor goes into an absolute panic. They march right into the archive and demand a global recalibration.
They want to violently reinforce the baseline preferences.
Yes. The supervisor literally accuses Iria of deliberately choosing chaos over safety.
It is the ultimate climax of the story. It's the desperate need for administrative control clashing with the unstoppable force of human evolution.
But okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Look for it.
Let's look at this purely from the supervisor's perspective. Logistically, administratively, isn't the supervisor entirely correct?
In a sense, sure.
I mean, markets are crashing. Decade-long contracts are evaporating into thin air. People's lives are being completely upended overnight. That is the literal textbook definition of destabilization. So why are we framing the supervisor as the villain for simply wanting to stop a massive structural collapse?
This raises an important question, and it is really the psychological core of everything we're discussing today. What is the true definition of safety?
Okay, what is it?
Well, the supervisor equates change with destabilization because their only metric for safety is predictability.
If it's not predictable, it's dangerous.
Exactly. If a system isn't predictable, they believe it is fundamentally broken. They cannot conceive of a safety that includes volatility.
But Iria looks at the real-time projections, and she notices that the system itself is resisting the recalibration.
Right.
Every single attempt the supervisor makes to force the citizens back into the cage only causes more intense, violent divergence.
Because the system has outgrown the cage. As Iria points out to her supervisor, the system isn't breaking, it's changing.
Changing, not breaking.
And the evidence is visible in the citizens themselves. When Iria observes them navigating this new reality, their movements have sharpened, their expressions have deepened.
They look alive.
They do. They are navigating immense uncertainty, absolutely, but they have reclaimed their vitality. True safety isn't found in a rigid, crystalline structure that just shatters into a million pieces the moment an unexpected variable is introduced.
It reminds me of the concept of anti-fragility.
Yes, exactly.
Things that actually benefit and grow stronger from shocks and volatility. Lethae was incredibly fragile precisely because it was so rigid. And the citizens, once freed from the algorithm, are becoming anti-fragile.
And Iria realizes this profound truth so deeply that she actually walks away from her console.
She just leaves.
She flat out refuses to initiate the global recalibration. She leaves the archive behind and physically walks to the very edge of the city,
where the pristine, symmetrical architecture just thins out and gives way to the vast, open void of space.
And there, silhouetted against the edge of the city, she meets a mysterious figure.
Yeah, and when she asks who they are, the figure simply replies, someone who left.
Which shouldn't be possible.
Exactly, and Iria is stunned because leaving Lethae is supposed to be categorically impossible. And she confesses to this figure that everything in the city feels unstable. People are changing too fast, nothing is holding its shape.
It's all falling apart.
She admits that standing there, watching the structure fail, it feels terrifying, but then she pauses and says, it also feels right.
It feels right. And the figure responds with what I consider the most vital insight in this entire exploration.
Let's hear it.
They look at Iria and tell her, you're not losing stability, you're losing the illusion of it.
You're losing the illusion of it. Wow, that reframes the entire concept of security.
It brilliantly synthesizes the astrological forecast and the narrative journey. True security is never found in a rigid, unchanging structure that requires constant, exhausting enforcement just to survive.
The beautiful cage is just a cage no matter how much gold you paint on the bars.
Right. True stability is the internal capacity to adapt to the wave. It's the flexibility to embrace a fresh opportunity when the ground shifts, rather than exhausting yourself trying to hold the walls up while the building collapses around you.
So what does this all mean for us? I mean, how do we take a sci-fi city orbiting a dim star, pair it with a planetary alignment, and actually apply it to our everyday lives?
It comes down to awareness.
Right. Think about the structures you rely on right now. Where are you clinging to a routine simply because the predictability feels like safety?
Are you living in your own personal version of Lethae?
Are you forcing a relationship or a career path or even just a creative project into a neat, symmetrical pattern, even though it is quietly draining the life out of you?
Because if you are feeling that restlessness we talked about, that sudden urge to break protocol and completely redesign your environment, remember Iria stepping off the edge of the city.
When she finally steps into the unknown, the ground doesn't fall away beneath her.
It shifts. It shifts and it forms something completely new to support her weight. The new reality is described as, quote, not safe, not certain, but unmistakably real.
Unmistakably real.
Today's an invitation to stay receptive to those unique, perhaps terrifying, opportunities on the horizon. The disruption might just be the revelation you need to finally feel alive again.
It's about letting reality arrive instead of constantly editing it away.
Absolutely.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder as you go about your day. We spent a lot of time analyzing Iria's job at the archive, literally editing the citizens' impulses to maintain the artificial peace of the city.
Right.
Turn that lens inward for a moment. If you had your own personal archive preferences running quietly in your subconscious, what sudden brilliant desires have you been automatically filtering out before they even fully form, just to keep your daily routine feeling safe?
That's the real question.
Maybe it's time to put down the pruning shears, step out of the topiary garden, let the branches grow wild, and see what actually blooms. Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you next time.